morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. We started our Let's Talk series in the summer of 2020 with the murder of Mr. George Floyd. It saddens me that we are back here talking about yet another murder. I'm Sharon Wilder. I'm the Chief Equity Inclusion Officer at Montgomery College. Today we're talking about the death of Mr. Tyre Nichols and our collective community action around policing, racial healing, and strategies for dealing with trauma. Like many of you in the college community, we in the Office of Equity and Inclusion were horrified by the brutal killing of Mr. Tyre Nichols by Memphis police officers. We join other voices in expressing our anger and disgust, and we condemn the officers' actions while recognizing that condemnation is not justice. Tyre was 29 years old, and his mother recalled his love of skateboarding, taking pictures, sunsets, and his family. We share our grief with his mother and his loved ones. Our minds are still coming to terms with how this could happen again. We wonder when we will see true change that makes such incidents a thing of the past. All too often, a person of color at a traffic stop can feel that they are existing in an uncertain state that can be simultaneously considered both alive and dead, subject only to a potential random interaction with an incompetent, fallible, malicious law enforcement officer that may or may not occur. And it is exhausting as it is tragic. On our campuses, we have taken extraordinary efforts over the last decade to update our campus safety practices, expand our mental health resources, stand up the Shaw Center, partner with the Truth and developing the Truth, Racial Healing and Transformation Centers. And yet I know that I feel that even that is not enough. These initiatives do help push us forward, but even with these measures and others we have well underway, Tyre Nichols' death comes on the heels of an already difficult year. With the California shootings in Monterey Park and Half Moon Bay that impacted the Asian and Pacific Islander communities and incidents elsewhere in this country. We recognize that our faculty, students, and staff may be grappling with collective or individual trauma or both related to all of these events. And we ask that each member of our community to be kind and patient and compassionate as the days proceed and more comes to light about Mr. Tyre Nichols' death. We encourage you to find community on campus during this time. In addition to healing spaces, please check our Office of Equity and Inclusion website to find other opportunities for advocacy and engagement. We stand united against police brutality of any kind. Let's remember that atrocities like that against Mr. Tyre Nichols reverberate across families, communities, and the country. And let's find strength in coming together to make positive change in our communities. So today's program, I am joined by Dr. Angela Dawson, who's a program coordinator at the Shaw Center. And she will be guiding us through some breathing and mindfulness exercises, and she also has some handouts for us today. Our segment one will be led by Dr. Andraé Brown, who's a psychology professor, helping us heal and healing after trauma. And then we'll have a chance for the audience to share tips that may help manage stress, and we'll discuss some resources. And then on our segment 2, retired captain of the Montgomery County Police Department and our own professor of criminal justice, Ms. Sonia Pruitt, is here. And she'll be talking about establishing partnerships with law enforcement to keep our community safe. We'll have our closing remarks by Dr. Irene Mushesh, who's the director of MC's Truth, Racial Healing and Transformation Campus Center. And we'll close out with Dr. Dawson once again, followed by lunch outside of this room. And with that, Dr. Dawson.
I'm happy to be here to share with everyone just one particular mind-body medicine technique called soft belly breathing. And before we get into that though, I think it's important to understand what it is, why it's important, and its impact on us physically and mentally. And I think it really will, to me, it connects what was discussed earlier in the intro about what we're dealing with when these stressors happen, things that happen that we can't control, and what this does is it really just gives you a way of understanding how to center and how to control your response to it and the impact that it can have on you both physically and mentally. So, but what is soft belly breathing? I don't know if you've heard of that before, or if any of you are already practicing that. It's really something just gonna give you like just the surface understanding of this, right? So that you'll say, hey, I'm gonna go off today and really use this, because it is something that you could carry with you and use all the time. So it's a really simple way of using the breath and breathing to become more aware of the mind-body connection. So when we're stressed, it's not just our minds that, may go a flutter, right? Our body, our parasympathetic system starts kicking in. Things start kicking in with us physically. And there are things that happen in our body that we're not always aware of, right? We want you to become more aware. And this is going to be an invitation for you to practice a technique that you can use as often as you want to master relaxing in any particular moment and to understand where your triggers are. I mean, we're not gonna go deep into that, but when you know you have triggers, many of us know we have triggers. But when we become more mindful of those, we can just use this to ground ourselves, right? And the technique is grounded in science. There's a lot of research in science about meditation in general, but also about this particular approach to understanding how to ground yourself and deal with the impact of stressors, right? So, one of the things I just want to say, the more you practice it, the more it kicks in for you, the quicker you can access it. But it doesn't matter if you're new to it or not, you're gonna see it's gonna have a profound effect for you. So, and I love the fact that you can do this anywhere, at any moment, for 1 minute or more. I would say if you want to have it in your daily practice, you want to be able to start out where you are, if it's 2 minutes, and then add more to that. But we're going to do it for, who knows, maybe 5 minutes at the most. I don't know, but I'll guide you through it. But what you'll find is that this technique activates what's called the vagus nerve. How many people know what the vagus nerve is? It is the longest nerve that leads from our cranial, our brain down to the rest of our body, right? It's the longest. It's one of 12 cranial nerves. It goes from our brain down to the colon. So it connects to our digestive system. It connects to our respiratory system. So when we experience stress and stressors, and I don't know, do you ever notice certain things happen with your digestive system? Do you notice certain things happen with your respiratory system? Well, this exercise is going to let us connect with knowing how to stimulate our vagus nerve. And then what happens is we'll be able to control the things that we don't normally know that we can't control in our bodies regarding our respiratory system. So what happens is when we start breathing deeply, because you should breathe more deeply. When we're stressed, we breathe shallow. Our breaths are more shallow. Our heartbeat speeds up. What happens? We sweat more. Anyway, those biological things happen, but other things can happen too, depending on what the stressor is and how long we're exposed to that. But we want to just take a moment just to slow our heart rate, to breathe deeply and slow our heart rate. And then what happens is if you have high blood pressure, it'll lower your blood pressure. And again, when you practice this over time, it does have a biological effect. We always tell people when we do these workshops, because we have extended workshops on this, that when you engage in any type of meditative activity and you're serious about practicing that and you're on any type of medication that may affect you in that way, just to be aware that that's going to be an impact on you. So soft belly breathing is when we bring as much oxygen into our body as we can by breathing deeply and inward deeply. And then we exhale. And the longer you exhale, I will say when we do this, the longer you exhale, the quicker you can stimulate your vagus nerve. Also, as a side note, if you want to stimulate your vagus nerve, you can do, what else do you think of that you could do that will increase your respiration? Hey, movement. If you like moving, whatever movement you do, trust me, it does stimulate the vagus nerve. But that's why in a way, if you engage in exercise or physical activity, dancing, anything like that, you're actually stimulating your vagus nerve. If you're singing, your vagus nerve actually runs through your throat. If you're singing, people who sing and hum a lot, they're stimulating their vagus nerve. So if you want to do that, be mindful about doing that. And another way is that it actually extends behind our ears. So if you ever just start massaging behind your ears, you're actually going to, stimulate your vagus nerve. And so sometimes if you just start instituting that, that's another way. But anyway, there are a few other ways to do it. I just want to throw that out there just quickly. So if you're not comfortable with certain things, maybe you're not even comfortable with the deep breathing at first, that's okay. But you can find other ways to do that. But why does that work? Why does it work? The amygdala, that part of our brain that actually registers fear and aggression, whether it's physical or psychological stressors that cause that to happen. Well, the amygdala, if it's not quiet, will cause us to respond because we're going to be a heightened alert, right? We're going to either do what? Fight, we're going to flight, or we're going to freeze. And a lot of times we're operating in that mode a lot. So this exercise is going to help us to stimulate a vagus nerve so that we can then quiet the things that happen with our amygdala. And another thing about the amygdala, if we are hyper stressed and we are in the fight, flight, or freeze mode, what else are we doing? We're not connecting with other people. We are in conflict with other people. We're more prone to put our hands on other people, right? So what we love about this technique also we promoted is this is a way for us to think about how to be harmonious internally, but also externally, because this connects us mind, body, and physically, okay? Now, again, when you do this, I want you to think about breathing in deeply, and exhaling completely. The longer you exhale, you have to exhale longer than you inhale. That means you are able to stimulate your vagus nerve a lot more quickly if you're using your breath, when you use your breath. So, having said that, when I put it back up, we're going to also prepare to segue into the actual exercise. And so we call it soft belly breathing also because we know that when your abdomen is relaxed, you are able to increase the oxygen in your lung. And the point of that is, again, to make sure that you are able to circulate the blood and oxygen through your body to nourish your brain, to nourish your cells. But soft belly breathing has been shown to improve your digestion and again, lower your blood pressure and a host of other things. We're not going to get into all that. But when you're breathing, you want to think about those things. And I'm gonna guide you through those things. And I'm gonna help you to understand like how to be more aware of your physical body so that you can start feeling your abdomen relax. And then when your abdomen is relaxed and the vagus nerve is stimulated, then the other parts of your body will relax. And the vagus nerve actually connects with all of your major organs as well. So the one thing I wanted to say also with soft belly breathing, we wanted people to understand is why it's an important thing to practice the Institute is because it decreases our fear responses because we're less inclined to jump into that, when we can be aware of our biological response to the triggers. Because the body's going to do what the body's going to do, right? And sometimes we think that we're not aware of what the body's doing, but the body follows the mind. So the point of soft belly breathing is to make you more aware so that your body follows your mind in the direction of being peaceful, being calm, not feeling like it's threatened, right? So if you're that way, then you're going to have more harmonious interactions with other people. Okay. All righty. So can we move forward? So I'm going to sit down. So what I'm going to do is guide you through the exercise. So, and if anybody's watching, if you can lie down, lie down. If you want to sit, the rest of us are going to sit. So the important thing now is to find your comfortable position, whatever is comfortable for you, and relax. So if you're comfortable, I want you to close your eyes. If you're not comfortable closing your eyes, look downward. Just keep your gaze downward, so softly downward, because what you want to do now is calm and focus. So at this moment, breathe in deeply. Inhale through your nose. Inhale deeply through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. Exhale completely. Relax through the breath. Breathe in. Inhale deeply. Exhale. Exhale completely. Exhale. And as you breathe, inhale, feel the oxygen coming into your lungs. And as you inhale, think soft. And as you exhale, think belly. Inhale on soft. Exhale, belly. And if thoughts enter your brain, let them come, let them float away on a cloud. Concentrate as you breathe in, soft. Exhale, 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 belly. Every time you breathe, you are relaxing your shoulders. Feel your muscles relax in your shoulders. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, soft. Exhale, belly. And you can feel the muscles in your back start to relax every time you inhale. Exhale. In your chest, the muscles in your chest will start to open as your back is relaxing. You can feel your chest opening. Inhale, soft. Exhale, belly. Inhale deeply. Exhale, belly. Inhale. Exhale. And imagine the oxygen filling your whole diaphragm and your lungs. Imagine the oxygen entering into your blood, nourishing your cells, nourishing your brain. And as you are relaxing, feel the calm come over you. You're feeling calmer. You're feeling more relaxed. And again, if thoughts enter, let them come, but then let them float away on a cloud. And inhale, soft. Exhale, belly. Soft, belly. Say to yourself softly as you inhale, soft, and gently exhale on belly. Inhale, soft, exhale, belly. Inhale, soft, exhale, belly. Inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. Continue thinking or saying soft, belly. Now, if you are aware and comfortable, slowly open your eyes and bring your awareness back to the room. And think about how you feel. Your heart rate is slower. Do you feel calmer? Do you feel more aware? And if you do, then this is what you want to do anytime you feel a trigger. It could be for 1 minute, 2 minutes, as little as that. And carry that with you through the day. That's it.
So good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Andraé Brown, and I'm in the psychology department here at Montgomery College. And so I'm glad to be here in the sense that I'm glad to be with you all. Would much rather do something else my Friday morning than to do this, but this is necessary. This is where we are. This is where the world is, and this is our ability to try to respond, cope, develop some resistance and resilience, and be able to move forward. So let me know if you can hear me. It's a little different feedback here than what I anticipated. But as we move forward, and I have a slides that's coming up, and also I'll just talk through them. You know, one of the things that we're looking at when it comes to healing is there's a couple of premises that we first need to recognize. So whenever we're looking at healing, when it comes to racialized violence, right? First thing we need to know is why are we even having this conversation? So some of the questions that you might find your friends, your colleagues, other people in the MC community and the larger community, is this important to do this? And why are we even discussing this at a university? And part of it is we recognize that as a social justice thinker, that we have an ethical and moral obligation to address these issues. We also believe that there's a capacity for humans to be change agents and create a more just society. So we look at deaths of police shootings, state-sponsored violence, whatever term you use for it. There's a sense that this is not just about one thing that's happening, right? It's not a one-off. This is a consistent, continued process of engagement that requires a larger response around healing. And so with that, we recognize that a lot of times who needs to be healed is often misspoken, right? So the victims in this situation, the people in the community, aren't the ones that's sick. Does that make sense? The people who commit the acts of violence are the ones that's sick. And so part we want to look at is if we place the impetus where it should be and who owns it, then there's different mechanisms for healing depending on where you stand in that position. So as we're talking today, you're going to hear a couple of themes in my talk, and this should weave through everyone else's about critical consciousness, raising our awareness about these issues, accountability. There has to be some level of accountability of us personally and for those who commit different acts, and also about empowerment, right? We need to be empowered to do what we need to do, engage, be focused, be vigilant, and have a response that's consistent. And so there's a couple of essential concepts, right? White supremacy, oppression, racism, bigotry, and all isms and bias are symptoms of extreme mental illness and lack of wellness. Does that make sense? Right? To have these things in us is an indication that something's wrong with us, right? If I feel as a man that I'm superior to women, it's not that the women is something wrong with them, it's something wrong with me. So we need to go to the point of where the problem is to begin to address it. So then we look at how do we maintain our mental health, wellness, sanity, and dignity during the contemporary manifestation of onslaught of racialized violence and white supremacy. So I'm saying contemporary, meaning this is the same thing that has happened over and over and over again, but this is what it looks like right now in 2023, right? The same thing looked like in 2021, 1965, 1911, 1874, however far you go back, it's the same thing that's going. And we've been fighting against this thing, and it comes in different ways. So one of the things that I'm a man of faith, I like to think. My God might be a little bit different than y'all God. Have some different things to get into my thing and out of it. What my God would do to my people that do stuff to me might be different than what yours is. So I'm speaking in general. But we have to recognize that the people that we're talking about, these things, aren't just this one person or that one person or this one person, right? We're battling things, especially when we're talking about psychological healing. It's not just flesh and blood. And this is a scripture, right? It's Ephesians 6, 12, and 13. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. We take on the whole armor of God that you may be able to withstand the evil in the day, and having done all to stand. Who's familiar with the scripture? Right? And most faiths have something that kind of taps into the same thing, right? And part of what it tells me is, I know for me as a man, to deal with these issues, I can't go after and target things that's in front of me. I'm working on different levels, right? I'm working now, I have a daughter. I'm working as a professor to help my students not kill my daughter 10 years from now. Does that make sense? So I'm working now based off of my father, my grandfather, my grandmothers, all my ancestors to give me vision, to give me focus, to give me the ability to be a healer in these spaces. And so as we think about this, because a lot of times I know several police officers. How many of y'all know people that work for DC police? Right? When we saw the insurrection occurring on the Capitol, we didn't look at the police officers as people that were shooting Black folks and brown people in the community. These are our brothers, our sisters, our cousins, folks that we deal with at cookouts and our regular daily life. So again, it's not just about the physical, what we're seeing, it's about all the things together that's coming along. That's important because if you think that you can do this alone by yourself without any support from something higher than yourself or connected with the people around you, you're going to be overrun by this onslaught of oppression that's been happening. And we see that occur over and over and over again. And so when we look at mental wellness, it's a state of well-being when people can cope with normal stress of life and be productive and work fruitfully to contribute to his or her community, right? So being mentally well means that you have the ability to cope and to manage, right? That makes sense? So if we look at mental illness, the simple answer is, what's mental illness? Let me get some participation. What's mental illness? Yes.
It's like an issue with the brain that causes long-term changes to your lifestyle and causes issues.
All right. Long-term changes to your lifestyles and your brain. What else? So if wellness is having the ability to cope, illness is what? The inability to cope. You should not be equipped with the ability to cope with something that's insane. Does that make sense? There's no natural manifestation of who you are that builds you up to say, I want to witness and watch murders. I know that my brothers, sisters, cousins, it was hard for me to do breathing exercise just a few minutes ago. Two things. One, I'm about to do this. And it was so good, Dr. Dawson, I was calming down too much, right? And the other side is I'm not comfortable, right? So we should not be comfortable when you're in the middle of a crisis, a pandemic, an epidemic, where we know that people are innocently being killed, and the forms of violence are not just police violence, all other forms of violence that we're talking about, right? So part of what we're looking at is we have to be able to think about who's sick, why we're sick. Should you be okay with seeing? One of the things I work with my students on, I talked about these last 2 weeks, you should not, and I'm encouraging everybody now, do not witness the murder of Black people constantly on loop, right? What it does is desensitize you, so when the next one comes out, you're more likely to witness it and have a position of, this is okay, this one wasn't as bad as that one. It's not as bad as I thought, it could have been worse. Oh, and we dissect and watch things that should not be watched or witnessed. That's a horrible event that occurs, but we see it over and over and over again. And think about how many millions of times now we've seen the murder of Black and brown bodies, right? It's horrible. We don't do this to white folks. We don't do it to other people. We don't put them up on TV and say, oh, let me show you my mama dying in her bathroom. She's sitting on the toilet and had a heart attack. But we'll watch and make a spectacle, which is a part of the thing I was saying before about how this has been historic. These are modern day lynchings, right? Over and over and over again. And if we look at lynchings, there's a sense of who are we taking. We read a book in the book talk this past year, and it talked about, I can't remember the book right now, talked about how the spectacle of the lynching, people would fight to take on the dismembered bodies of the men and the women they had. Said, I want the ears, so there'll be fights breaking out. While people are coming to say, oh, I got this so I can save it and store it in my house, right? We're doing the same thing now. We look at these murders on TV. Look at the newscast. Who's fighting to get the most exclusive news and play the videos the most times? So part of what we're doing is we want to recognize the sickness and also know that there's some things we have to do to heal and protect ourselves. So we look at trauma, right? It's the sudden, unexpected, overwhelming, intense emotion that comes from these blows, these punches, right? The thing is now, we don't even feel that the trauma is traumatic because it happens so much. Does that make sense? I was on a meeting this morning, about 10 something, and someone on the meeting said there was a shooting this morning in Southeast DC. A young man was killed, and they were trying to figure out, it may have had some police involvement, it may not have, I was getting pieces of it. We're on a meeting, 6 people on the call, everybody kind of stopped, we paused, took a deep breath, I drank some water, I'm trying to figure we're gonna do the meeting, continue, whatever, and someone said, well, we did a good job on this, this, and this, right? So the question becomes, do we stop the meeting every time someone's murdered or killed or whatever? I don't know the incident, I don't want to speak too much on it, when there's a death that occurs, or do we continue with business as usual? Because we're so connected to the fact that this is happening over and over and over again. So just because you don't cry every time something happens doesn't mean you're not being traumatized. Just because you can continue with your day doesn't mean that there's not trauma occurring. Just because we can sit and do these events and create spaces for healing doesn't mean that we're all not sick. Not only those that are the victims or the recipients of it, but also those that are engaging in and committing these acts. So when we think about what we have to do, it's around resilience, right? And so we hear trauma from people who we witness, and we call that vicarious trauma. You witness someone else, but there's also a thing called vicarious resilience. We get strength from witnessing how other people are resilient and learning those stories of overcoming and achieving. So these are a couple of phrases, and I want you to think about the phrases you keep in your head that demonstrate resilience. One is from Dick Gregory, one of my favorite comedians and authors. When we shoot right and from truth and justice, when we shoot right and truth and justice down, the more right, truth, and justice will rise up. right? You're gonna have to keep fighting over and over and over again because every time you shoot one down, something is coming up. It's never over until it's over. And when it's over, we don't know, and hopefully it'll be sooner, but some of us may not be alive when peace is in the United States we want it. The other is from Travis Smiley. This is Prince, the artist. He talks about, I can't be played. A person trying to play me plays himself, right? You can't tell me that I'm wrong when I know I'm right. Does that make sense? You can't stop me on the street when I know I'm going 55 and a 65 and tell me that I'm going 72. I'll go through the game with you. I'll take the ticket. I'll do whatever it is, but I know good and well I'm right. The other thing is, and this is for me, in my mind, it happens all the time. Who he think he talking to? He must think I'm crazy. My black mama ain't raised no MF fool. Now I don't cuss her on mama, but that's something I have to say to myself. Are you serious? Are you really think you're getting over on me? You think I'm stupid? Because people will act like you stupid when you're not. So you have to have something in your head that's gonna snap you out of, you know what? All this is cool, we're going along with it. We'll, just like you sit with your parents when you're little and your mama talking crazy, and you know, Jesus, what are we doing here? Okay, Ma, yes ma'am, yes ma'am, yes ma'am. Man, this woman crazy, right? You and your siblings gonna talk about it later. Keep it quiet to yourself. Don't say it out loud, but you have to know something in yourself to keep you grounded, to give you a sense of balance. Because if not, you will become crazy living in a world of crazy. Does that make sense? And then you're on the other side of this, and there's no way for you to, the path back to restoration is very difficult when you've already gone beyond that space. So when we think about strategies, it's about resilience, resistance, and being resolute, right? And so when we think about resilience, when resilience happens, that means, is this on here? Nope, we're gonna go back. So when we look at resilience, that means that you have to go through the thing that you're enduring. Does that make sense? In order to be resilient, you got to start it, take the lumps, go through it, have some setbacks, go through it again, do whatever it is on the other end of it, you'll be resilient. Hopefully, you don't die in the process. Does that make sense? And if you do fail, that doesn't mean you're a failure, because we have to look at where your resilience started from, right? How low down were you when you started off? Does that make sense? So with our mental health, you maybe have some good days, you may have some bad days. You don't measure your bad days based off your good days. You measure your bad days based off your worst days. Does that make sense? So if you're on an 8 right now, and last month you was on a 2, tomorrow you're on a 12, you're not measuring that 12 by the 8, you're going back to that 2 and say, oh, you know what, I'm still fighting, right? When there's resistance, that means as it's coming to you, you put up your fight at the beginning. Just like the term resist the rest. You're someone's trying to arrest you, to stop you, you're fighting it before it even comes. What's the point of contact? If we're able to do that, that stops some of it. When you're resolute, that means you say to yourself from the beginning, this is not going to happen to me. Does that make sense? Some things we have to commit to, and I've had to do it as a man, as a father. One of the things I made a resolution about was that I would not put my hands on my daughter, right? Up to this point, I have not. She pushes the buttons, I still have not. And I have not because I will not.
Right.
Does that make sense? No matter what she does, anybody does, I will not do that. I've had to take vows of nonviolence for my own self growing up, because I used to fight a lot, get in trouble, do stuff, seeing things is all bad. Also knowing that at a certain stage in my life, I cannot do this because the hits are too heavy and people get hurt really bad. So part of what we want to think about is, what is it that you will make, where are you at when it comes to your mental health and your wellness? What are you going to be resilient and got to endure and go through? And once you know where it is, you know, I got to go through this because I'm in it, right? I'm resistant. I'm not going to allow this to happen, right? And the other is I'm resolute. I will stop it and I will act in a way so I don't even put myself in positions that anybody that comes in my circle doesn't have access to these parts of my life. You do not have access to drive me crazy, right? My mom and daddy did enough stuff to me growing up where I got a lot of time to go to therapy without anybody doing anything else to me right now, right? So nothing that's going to happen in this world is going to drive me out of my mind, so I can't be an access to my family and a resource when I got other things to deal with, including fighting for my people, including being a resource. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
So one thing that we look at is different rituals, right? And rituals are important because rituals give us a sense of grounding. Rituals let us connect. Rituals help us remind us what was before and gives us new mechanisms and pathways for healing. And so there's three types of rituals that we find. It's transition rituals, healing rituals, and identity reformation rituals. And that's on the next slide. So when we think about transition rituals, we want to mark the change in relationships, membership, boundaries, and things that accompany exceptional life events. So think about what have you done over the last year, the last 2 years, to ritualize the changes that you've occurred, that your family, that your friends, that your community has endured to transition from where you were to where you are now. For some people, that may be a sense of innocence that you may have been growing up with and dealing with, and now that's lost, right? For some, it may be you moving from a position of being racist to a position of anti-racist, right? It may be a position of being closed to or not aware of some of the issues that different communities face to being more aware. What are we doing to mark those things? Things like this can be a transition ritual for you if you know I'm here for a certain purpose, I'm here for a reason, and I'm going through this process and it'll be different on the other end of it. Healing rituals, things that we have to do with loss. Some people pour libations. Who's ever poured libation? Right? There's a healing that comes from that. There's a healing that comes from being able to recognize what our ancestors did. And also know that we have to cope and deal with the grieving process. You have to grieve, right? Grieving is normal. Grieving is healthy. If you don't grieve, something is wrong with you. Does that make sense? If you can witness, be a part of a loss and not have any emotional connection to it, something is off. You are numb, you are dead, you need to be awoken, you need to be reconnected, you need some rituals to bring you back to that humanity. The other is looking at identity reform rituals, and we kind of mentioned this earlier, is removing the stigma and the labels away from individuals, couples, families, especially in larger political contexts, viewed as negative. One of the identity rituals we have to change is the identity ritual around who are the victims when we have police-sponsored violence or state-sponsored violence, right? Every time something happens, the first thing that goes on is saying how bad this person was or what they could have done. So you have a young person walking down the street, ends up dead, and then everything that ever happened about them comes out when it's usually nothing there. But yet we try to change the name of who that person is to be something that we can now, say it again, justify the actions and also make us less sympathetic to that person's plight, right? I'm watching the show, y'all, I don't know, I'm not inviting people to watch it, called Hunters on y'all watch it, it's about Nazi hunters on Netflix, right? One of the things that it shows is that after Germany, right, it's fictional, it's good, it's fictional. People came, they take Nazi scientists and Nazis, bring them to the United States, give them new identities, and they integrate themselves into American culture, right? They changed their identity from where they were to who they are now. Some of the folks that we allow into our space are the same people they were before. They got a new name, but we're treating like they're new, but they're the same old demon that they were to begin with.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So until you change truly, you put a new face on a new person doesn't change what's happening. So even one of the biggest comments that comes out of Tyre Nichols' death is, oh, these are black cops doing the same thing. Franz Fanon talks about white masks, black faces, right? Or black face, white mask. I just mixed it up. The same thing is you can change the skin color of a person and they will commit the same exact act because the act is what's being designed and implemented and what's being going out. That makes sense? So for me, my oppressor has no color. That makes sense? So therefore, if we allow for us to recognize that we need to look at who we're dealing with, where it's coming from, what's the history of that person, who am I letting into my circle, who are we letting into our homes, into our churches, into our classrooms, right? And recognize who's really there, then you have a better sense of navigating and strategizing. So again, this is not just about healing for me. And what I found, when you look at people with violence, people victims of crime, it's not about just feeling good about yourself. It's about what actions are you willing to take to protect against and to fight against. So healing is two parts, right? You being a healer and a warrior. Think about going to the doctor. The doctor has a scalpel, which will cut you, but that same thing will also heal you. So as we're thinking now, we're looking at a couple things we want to do. We're looking at reflection. We have to reflect. One thing that happens when we're caught up in these movements or in these positions of crisis or trauma, you don't have time to think. It's the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. What am I gonna do for dinner? And I gotta worry about this, and I gotta do this, and I gotta do that. Make sure you find time to think, get grounded. The breathing exercises are important. I've never done so much breathing in my life, except for the last 5 years. And I do it. I breathe, I stop. I'll be in the house and people are like, why you breathe so hard? I need it right now in this moment to get this thing together because I do not have it in me and I gotta remind myself of who I am, right? Action, you have to take on new habits. Turn the TV off, read something, go engage, go find some community activities, some people to connect with. Something where your voice can be supported and engaged with people that are like-minded. You'll be surprised about who's in your circle and you'll be surprised about who's outside your circle. I learned a phrase recently, I was doing this talk, one of the young men on the video said, everybody in my corner is not in my circle, everybody in my circle is not in my corner. Does that make sense? Some of your family members are supporting the initiative that you're sitting here trying to heal from. Some of your people that you go to church with are supporting the initiative, have no problem, and will take on the side of continuing to oppress other people and will still sit and have dinner with you. Does that make sense? You need to examine those relationships and figure out whose side are you on, right? If you're with me, you're with me. If you're not, you're not. If you're in between, we got to figure out how to get you onto my side because I'm not going to your side. The other thing is about continuity and sustainability. You have to be consistent, vigilant, and focused on doing this for the long term. You will burn out, right? You will have too much coming on your plate for you to fight every battle. Every conversation you can't engage in, but you need to be present for the ones that are most pressing and vital for you to have your opinion, your voice, your action, your money, whatever it is that you're putting up, you need to put it in the right place. And so one of the things that I think about, and this is, I'll close here, is about what do we need to think about as we're going through this? So what are you willing to do to demonstrate, fortify, and bolster your resilience, right? Think about it, this is a personal thing that you need to do. What are you willing to do? Saying you're passive in this is not gonna help you or anybody else, right? You will get run over. You will be too depressed. If you're depressed, get some help. Go to therapy, find a group, do some walking, do some breathing, do something to fight yourself out of this. How far are you willing to go, right? Is it lip service? Are you good to show up when it's time to show up? Are you good to do whatever it is? That's cool. Whatever your level of participation is fine, as long as you participate in the right way. But you need to talk to yourself and say, how far are you really willing to go in this? What are you willing to do? What's necessary for you to protect yourself and family, right? What do you owe your people? Us in this room and listening is about 75, almost 80 people. We're looking at about 100 people today and more gonna see this later. What do you owe somebody. This is not just about you, right? You'll be gone and the next person will be sitting in your seat and your family will keep moving, but you owe it to the next generation, to our current generations, that you have to do something. And then what does your soul owe to your family, your God, to your people? Whoever your people is should be my people, unless we're different type of people. Does that make sense? Because we all the same people and we're all connected. If we're not, we're not. So be clear about pointing out these things, because again, you don't want to be in the room and you think you're going one way and then you're being taken somewhere else, right? It's a distraction and that is a trick. And so that's where I'm at. So I don't know if this is the most soothing, healingest thing. It's healing for me, right? But when we think about healing, we think about resilience. It's not necessarily about laying down and praying. When you pray, you better get up and be ready to fight, right? When you breathe, get yourself centered. What's your next move? When we're engaging in dialogue, we're talking to get understanding, reflecting, we're thinking, we have a purpose, we have intent. But after the conversation is over, what's the next step? So thank y'all for the time and I appreciate you.
Couple of minutes for some questions. And we'll accept them in the chat as well.
Thank you so much for your words. And I wanted to see your opinion on something, because you made mention about the trauma of having to repeatedly see the videos. But then you also have the other side, because everybody's been debating this even on social media. And that's kind of like the Made Me Till idea of the world needs to know. So I just wanted you to speak to that, because I think there's some truth on both.
So funny.
And then there's health in the middle.
It's health. So it's so funny. So if you know the story of Emmett Till, right? We know that was a lie, right? Nothing happened. There was no thing that occurred that day, right? The woman who accused him of making those statements recounted that statement, right? What we know, we've seen Emmett Till's body. We don't know that woman's face. Does that make sense? So we're showing the wrong parts of these things. I know someone's murdered. I'm not gonna watch this video. I can't. I physically can't see it. I've seen violence in real life and it's hard, right? I can't watch certain things occur. It's just too damaging. So I have to protect myself to even be human. I need to stay soft, right? So it's if we take this down, why not show more positive images of Black people in general? So then they will be less demonized, so that people will be less likely to harm them. Does that make sense? So even with Mamie Till, the world needs to see, but that was a whole different time period. We don't need to see it over and over and over. How many of y'all let y'all children watch pornography?
No.
But we'll let our children watch murder? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's not logical. So
Right.
social media can say what they want to say. I'm saying from my position, from a mental health standpoint, if we're dealing with violence over and over again, if you've seen when your loved ones die, you know what happened. You can imagine. My imagination is equally as worse than what I can imagine on television. And it's not done in the right place. They're not released. This is the other part. We selectively release which video we want to show, right? I know in Elizabeth City, when they killed Mr. Brown, there was another brother down there, they fought to get the tape released and they still didn't release the full footage. And they shot this man down 100-something rounds in his driveway at his house. We didn't see that, but we'll show this. So it's about the politics that's going around. And remember, like I said, it's not the flesh and blood. It's not about you see it or don't see it. What is it doing to your spirit? What is it doing to your soul? What is it doing to the next generation? Someone to think this is okay to drag and slam little Black girls in the classroom. Oh, well, that's okay because she moved. Really? It's ridiculous. So you can watch it if you want to and do it. You will at some point have to do something to combat what you're being put in, has to come out. How is that going to come out? Is it going to be rage? Is it going to be self-loathing? Is it going to be you not being able to sleep at night? What does it really mean when you see these things and bring these in? And if your politics is I'm going to show to get more awareness, be very deliberate and very political, but who's watching? The people that don't care about this aren't watching the video. If they do, they're celebrating. Oh, look, he had a good kick in, right? As compared to, I don't care, I don't even believe it happened. The people who usually watch it the most are people who are sympathetic, and we're torturing ourselves over and over again while we're doing it. I can't believe this is happening. Let me watch it again. So that's my take.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Doctor. Everything you said is wonderful. I just wanted to make a comment on just personally. This particular situation was even more, there we go again with adding these kinds of things, but it was the fact that these officers were, I think all of them were African-American. And I think that this has been, for me, a very different kind of grief. It's hard to put it into words, but I just wanted to add that piece of it because I don't think that I've heard much about that part of it. I don't think people have that narrative I haven't heard much about, but for me, it's been a different kind of grief.
Because they were Black officers?
Yes.
And so you're reacting to the Black on Black?
Yeah,
Right.
I you know what? I really haven't sorted out all of the feelings associated with that. It's heinous in any case. I mean, that there's no, one is better than the other. I mean, the whole thing, but it has been very visceral for me, that particular factor.
No, and you're right? There's all these things are complex. It's not like it's one clear line. Easy to have one enemy, and it's just this 6'4" white male police officer. That's easy. We can pick them out. Most of the officers aren't that. Most of the time when incidents of violence occur in our community, it's not black and white. It's not just white officers doing it. This is what I would encourage folks to do. As you said, there's so many feelings and emotions when we haven't done it reflect. You have to go through your own personal inventory and really figure out why you're mad. It's like, it's a rap song, like, why you mad, son? Are you mad because the guy died?
Right.
Are you mad because of Black people? You're mad because it happened again. What are you really mad about and upset about? And then go and figure out a way to address each and every single one of those things that you have a problem with. So if you don't, it just becomes overwhelming. And and this is the trick. I'm gonna tell you a trick. The first thing that oppressors do is every incident of anything that happens within the same group and say, well, look, y'all can't take care of yourselves, so what's the difference between us? Which is the most ridiculous thing ever. There's no black person that's the head of the whole police, whatever, except for Dr. Pruitt, right? But even then, when you're working this way, it's not just about the officer. The officers are acting out a mandate that they were given permission to do based off of all the history that they were presented with prior to this point, right? So if you're a person that's gonna do something, you're gonna do it, right? There's a day when you wake up, and I say it like this, people get married. When you're married, you wake up every day and you realize, am I gonna be married when I come home or not? Right, it's a choice. Some people wake up and they know, I'm getting in this situation, I got power. And I get power, I'm gonna use this. I got this good over time, and I ain't never hit nobody with it. One day I'm gonna hit somebody. And when this opportunity comes, somebody has to stop it. Because remember this, it was a whole force that was involved in this, right? Dispatchers, phone calls, police officers, everybody gets the same notification at the same time. More people could have been there than that was there quicker than what they showed up. And I don't even know the storyline. I haven't seen it, but I know the storyline. It's the same story all over again because the protocol is the same. So we changed the protocol, then you're able to hold people more accountable, but the faces are acting out what they already have been taught, been trained, know to do, know how many hits to get, know what it is. And I know this, not just from watching the witness, but I know folks that do stuff that's kind of messed up. I do a lot of street life. I deal with Pruitt. They know which car to break into. They know which thing to do. So if you're a person that's thinking this way, acting this way, you will pick the person, pick the accident. Because we know this. Most accidents occur when you're closer to your home, right? Why? You're more relaxed. When you look at and notice the things that have happened with the police shootings and killings, they're usually when people are in a comfortable position, right? Or you're on the side of the highway, you're more scared. I realize this, I can beat up most people, and I'm not even a tough guy. One-on-one, most people, it's gonna be a good little fight, right? 5 against 1, I'm gonna get a couple of them, but I'm probably gonna end up losing. When these things occur, it's not one-on-one. These are things that are being laid out, planned, and this is the way that people move to engage in these things. So when we study violence, we study action, and you study the history of them, you see the same pattern over and over again. That's what's so sick, right? It's the same pattern. Different players, for the female versus male, for the transgender person, for the gay person, for someone else in it. Mob mentality is mob mentality no matter where it comes.
All right, we have one question in the Zoom. Dr. Raphael Howell. You can come up.
Another way to think about Black on Black aggression is intergenerational trauma. We call it in psychology epigenetic transfer. And so there are real biophysiological reasons for Black on Black aggression. And we have to understand that concept in order to mitigate against the transfer. That's very essential. That's the work that we need to do. That's a part of the work we need to do, is to interrupt intergenerational transfer of trauma. And we come out of that slavery experience to recapitulate and play the role of the master. So that is part of the psychological reason for Black on Black aggression, epigenetic transfer.
Thank you so much for that. We're going to move to our next segment now. Establishing partnerships with law enforcement to help keep our communities safe.
So I had to sit with this title, right? Sharon sent me something, and I was like, no, that's not what I want to say. And I realized I'm also entering a space where not everybody wants to be partnerships with law enforcement. As a matter of fact, we don't even want to call it law enforcement. We don't even want to talk about the criminal justice system because it's not justice. So now we're calling it the criminal legal system. So I was trying to be very careful about my words, but I did the best I could, and hopefully you will get what I mean as we go along in this talk. So I am here at Montgomery College. I've been here now for 7 years. I worked as an adjunct for 4 before I became full-time, and I left the police department at the beginning of COVID because I wasn't feeling safe. I wasn't feeling safe from COVID. I wasn't feeling safe in the police department, psychologically. I had spent 28 years there and I was just ready to damn go. Because of why we are here having this conversation, things that I experienced personally as a Black woman, things that I observed, it was a lot. And it was my own personal trauma. I realized it, I acknowledged it. When I finally realized I needed to acknowledge it and, you know, make sure I had the right support system. And I also realized I was there for a reason because I needed to learn about how the system works so that I could talk to you about how to be empowered. You cannot dismantle a system if you don't know how it works. So I encourage people to become police officers because you need to go inside and you need to figure out how this thing is going down and what you can do to disrupt the issues that we're talking about today. I got all these notes. I didn't say nothing I got on this piece of paper, right? Okay. But okay, so I spent 28 years as a police officer. I left as a captain, the first African-American female captain, a woman captain. I like it was a struggle. I do a lot of other things. I work with other police entities, professionals. Not all of them are law enforcement out in the real world, dealing with these issues, educating people on the intersectionality between race and law enforcement. You might have seen me on some news shows. I refuse to go on Fox because I don't want my message skewed or I don't want to be attacked. I want to be able to clearly speak about what it is that I want people to know. So now you know which side of the fence I'm on. So I'm not good with clickers because my students are probably I have some students here. They're probably laughing at me right now like, oh, she don't know what she's doing. I'm going to start this off with an interview that I did right after Tyre Nichols' murder. And then we'll go from there.
Joining me now is Sonia Pruitt, retired captain of the Montgomery County Police Department in Maryland. She's a founder of the Black Police Experience. She joined me last night. Captain Pruitt, good morning to you again. Thank you for being with us. You know, last night in our coverage, Karen Bass, the new mayor of Los Angeles, former member of Congress, was on with my colleague Joy Reid, and they were talking about the brutality that we saw in the video last night. I want to play for you how Karen Bass described it.
There's the guardian mentality that's traditional, protect and serve, that often is not done with our communities. Then there's the warrior style of policing. What we saw was the warrior style of policing. But to me, unless there are very specific consequences and the leadership, I don't care how much you train people, officers have to know that there will be consequences.
You made a similar point to me last night in which you said training's only as good as what people will actually do. These cops looked and felt and acted like warriors, not protectors and defenders.
Yes. And I also said that policy is only as good as an officer being held accountable to that policy. And then the police culture squashes both of those things, because if you're deeply entrenched enough into police culture, then the policy and the training really does not matter.
Yeah, you made that point to me, and I guess to Antonia's comment, the lawyer, Benjamin Crump, had said, you know, what happened here after the tragedy is the gold standard of how we need to do it. Charge the police, relieve them of their duties, investigate, and charge. But how do you change that first part, right? This will be accountability. It'll actually never be justice because Tyre Nichols is dead. How do we change that first part? They get training all over this country. I think you were talking about it last night. Everybody trains their police now differently. Why do these young police officers, all of whom were recruited between 2017 and 2020, why do they display behavior that we associate with very old school policing?
Because they are mentored, they are taught. And maybe for some, the draw to policing is this sense that you will have power. And you know, I was doing some reading last night, and I was reminded of something called distributive justice. Distributive justice is different from legal justice. In distributive justice, officers are on the street distributing their own idea of what justice is. There's no idea of due process because the wheels of due process turn too slowly. And triggering that is the fact that a citizen may not comply. They may not follow your orders, that you cannot control them. Then all of a sudden you're like, well, I can now, and rationalizing it by the police culture and loyalty and how we've always done it, I can now distribute my own justice. And it doesn't even matter if you have charges. As you can see, no one knows why Tyre Nichols was stopped. And there is a part in the video where the dispatcher says, as they're pursuing him, what are the charges? And no one answers.
Right.
Because there probably weren't any charges.
Let me ask you very quickly about the idea that the 5 police officers charged are black and the victim is black. You and I have been talking for 3 years about police violence and police brutality, but in most cases it's been white police and black victims. What do you glean from what we know about this story?
That is so sad. In our community, we talk about internalized racism, meaning black people who hate their blackness. I'm not sure if that is the case here or whether they were just overwhelmed with the power that they had been given as police officers. But what we do know is that clearly from when you talk to anyone from the black community, that the fact that these 5 officers were not the vanguards that they were supposed to be for our community, that they were actually destroyers of a young black, to all accounts, very kind young man. I can't, it's hard to find the words. This has been sitting on my heart because I have 2 sons. Yeah. They're young, they're slightly built. They're very kind and funny and everyone loves them. And to think that these black men would not see Tyre Nichols or my son or someone else's son or nephew as a member of their own family, it is just incredibly, incredibly hurtful.
This has been a very hurtful story all around. Sonia Pruitt, thank you, as always. Sonia Pruitt is a retired police captain at the Montgomery County Police Department and the founder of the Black Police Experience.
That was an interesting interview for me because I had not had time to reflect. And so when he asked me about the officers being black, I immediately went to my sons. The thought that someone would harm them. And my students. And so that's what I spoke about. But the whole, I'll address the very, very succinctly, I hope, the piece about the officers being black. But what I want to talk about first is the culture. I mentioned the culture in the video. Culture is a pattern of activity of a group of people. It encompasses unwritten standards for behavior, speech, attire, rituals, and belief systems. Essential elements of a culture are its values, its societal conventions, and the institutional framework, institution being the police. The culture then embraces the values of the institution and are then the employees in this particular piece, the officers, are expected to act in a way that elevates the code that is established by the values. And there are penalties for breaking the code. Such is it with policing. And I talked about policy and training in this interview. Policy and training means nothing. We can policy and train ourselves to death in policing, and guess what? It is now 2023 and Tyre Nichols is not with us anymore. And I'm pretty sure those officers have been well trained. They've got plenty of policy to look at. So why is that not working? Culture of policing has a legacy that was established during the enslavement of Black people. That's when it first started. Then the enslaved were always seen as a racial threat. Through the Civil War, through Reconstruction, Jim Crow, the Civil Rights Movement, and even now during the still occurring fake war on drugs, it's Black people who are seen as a racial threat. And through all of those periods, the police have been the enforcement arm of all of the institutions that would seek to oppress people of color and other marginalized groups through education, financing, housing, and even medicine. So it is not the race or ethnicity of the officer. It's the racial threat that remains consistent. Even amongst 5 Black police officers on a predominantly Black police department in a predominantly Black city called Memphis, they simply embraced the culture and the incredible power of policing. So it didn't matter who they were, whether they were LGBTQ, white, Black, young, old, they just happened to be young. And there's some considerations there. But it is the culture, it is the system, it is the institution that causes what we are speaking about today. Lack of strong, effective leadership. So everybody saw Chief C.J. Davis. She used to be the president of the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. So she is a professional. She has been around for a while. She is smart. She pretty much knows what she's doing, but she fired these 5 officers very quickly, which is what we've always been asking for, right? When there's police misconduct and there's death. But now there are questions about how could she not know that these officers were out there doing this night after night? She created that unit. And what I have a particular concern about is that she did not have, admittedly, enough supervisors in her police department. So they were out there with all kinds of autonomy, acting with impunity. They didn't have no supervisor got on the air and said, what are you guys doing? Stop it. Or where are you? Or what are you, why are you chasing him? There was nothing. They were just doing this on their own and they were accustomed to doing so. So now she is going to be probably held accountable in some way, whether it's because they forced her to retire from the department or whatever. But she is responsible because she is the leader. And so it's great that I see a sister. I love seeing a sister at the head of a police department. I never got that opportunity. And I never accepted it even after I retired. I was like, no, that's okay. I'd rather do this. Great to see her, but she's gonna have to be held accountable for allowing them to just be out there just roughshiding it and just pulling people over for no good reason and killing them. This has been a heavy topic. We've done some mindfulness exercises. I appreciate the breathing. I love breathing. Been breathing a lot. I'm like, Andraé, I need an oxygen tank. I've been breathing so hard sometimes, even here at Montgomery College, right? Because this is not just a them or their or even a then problem. It's not, oh, this just happened. This happened hundreds of years. Police are not the same. That's not true. It's not their problem that this just happens in Memphis. Montgomery County has its own history of racial animus between the community and the police. And some of it is very recent. It's not just the them problem. It's not just those Black folks over there. And I know how uncomfortable it is for people to talk about race. We had a comment in the chat that I saw about using dog whistles to talk about white people. Black people, we don't really have that issue. And I know that I don't. I am comfortable speaking on race. I lived racial animus for 28 years in the police department. I am down for the conversation any and every time. This college has asked us to be anti-racist. There's a difference between allyship and anti-racism. Allyship is like, girl, I'm so sorry you're going through all this stuff that you're going through. You listening, oh. Anti-racist means you are taking action. That you're going to, gave us some tips. We're gonna stand in this and I'm gonna stand with you. When I hear someone say something that I know is inappropriate, I'm going to say something, even if it doesn't even involve me. Right. The Black community has been doing this for time, since time untold. People look to us every time someone's offended in any other marginalized community. Well, why aren't those Black people standing for us? We stand for you every time we stand for ourselves. But what I'm looking for, well, who's standing for us? Who's standing for Tyre Nichols? I love it when I see that someone stops when a young Black man is talking to the police and they got their video camera out. Okay, you're doing something. Like, I might not go over there and say anything, but I'm watching. That's action, people. And then there are some who are asking, well, what are we gonna do? Why are we gonna do anything at all? Besides the fact that, it's over there and it's them and, let me tell you why. Roe versus Wade has been overturned. Who does that affect? Well, it does affect everybody, but who's the target? Women and our health and our decisions for our own agency and bodies, right? COVID. Who did that affect really strongly as far as violence is concerned? The Asian community. Right? All of a sudden they're under attack for no good reason. Don't say gay. I couldn't live in Florida.
No, I'm not even visiting.
Don't say gay. Who says that? The House just voted down a revision of the criminal code in DC that has not been revised since 1901. They still want to act like it's 1901 in DC. Well, not the people, but the House. And who controls the House? We have had questionable police incidents in Montgomery County, so it's really close to home, right? You may not live in Montgomery County, but you work in Montgomery County. And the Holocaust. There is a series on PBS. It's called The U.S. and the Holocaust. It's a several episode series. It is outstanding. I'm a student of history. I can't get past Hitler. I'm amazed that he was able to do the things he was able to do. But look at our recent history, the banning of books. They did that. Lies and propaganda. They did that. Revising history. Sound familiar? That happened then, and it's happening now. We have a governor in the state of Florida who was able to have the college board just totally dismantle the study of African-American history. That affects all of us. That affects the entire United States, not just Florida. So what happens if he becomes president? He has an HBCU in Florida. We have an HBCU right here, several right here in the DMV. So these things are important, but don't underestimate, because I understand some people are questioning why our students need to be put through this, like it's terror or something. Maybe you can ask one of my students, but do not underestimate the effect that this is having on our students. I've had sessions with every class that I teach here at Montgomery College and at Howard, and these are just some of the things that our brilliant students are saying because they are engaged, they're tuned in. They're worried about themselves and their families and their friends and their fellow students. They don't feel hopeful that anything can be done about police brutality. Someone said to me, even the smartest students not safe. They don't believe that a system built on racism can even change, because we've been here for hundreds of years. Actually, we were here before that, but we weren't enslaved. Okay. Diversity without committed anti-racism does nothing to help the problem. So what they're saying is we can't fill our schools and police departments and colleges with all these different diverse demographics, because that doesn't do anything to help the problem if you're not committed to anti-racism. Black and brown people can't take off their skin. We're just who we are, right? We got to deal with it. It was not about the race of the officers, but policing culture. So they recognize that without us even having had the conversation. They're smart. Police brutality is global. Yeah. It's not just, okay, it's not just here. It's not just in Memphis, it's everywhere. And these students expect all members of all communities to unify around these issues. They have an expectation of us who are leading them. So I set on what I wanted to do in terms of how do we empower ourselves? Us as parents and guardians and leaders at the college and friends, right? So if you watch the State of the Union address, you heard President Biden talking about the talk. All the Black people in here know about the talk, I'm pretty sure. If you don't have kids, you still know about it. But I have sons, and I have the talk, and I've had a different type of talk at every level of their existence and maturity. And they are now college students, and I'm still having the talk with my sons. Right. Because I am like, I need you to be empowered and have some sort of skills if you come upon a situation where you're feeling uncomfortable with law enforcement. So these are things that we tell our sons and daughters during the talk. Stay calm. It's not your child or your friends or your student's responsibility to keep the officer calm. It's not. We're not centering that on our the people that we love. The officers should be de-escalating. That is their responsibility. But we do want to give people the tools to stay calm so that you can listen and engage and keep yourself safe. So you control what you can. Follow instructions. Don't argue. Remain polite. I have one of my sons is just me. Lord just said, I'm going to give you. And he is a smart aleck. And I said, you're going to have to not be that. Right. Okay. Don't try to run a fight. Next. Don't try to run a fight, because why are you running? Because you're scared. I get it. But running just excites the situation more, as you can see in Memphis. Oh, now we got a runner, just like during slavery. Mm-hmm. Exactly right. Okay. If you're driving, turn your light on inside the car. Keep your hands on the steering wheel until the officer comes up to the car. Turn on the record feature on your phone and just lay your phone down. Because somebody needs to bear witness to what's happening. Next, please. Make no sudden movements or start reaching for things. One of my sons, his car is full of stuff. I said, oh my God, he ain't gonna be able to find his son. You need to clean up your car and don't be reaching all around like, well, I'm gonna need you to clean this up. When reaching for your license and registration, tell the officer, I'm gonna reach for my license and registration. Get the officer's name and badge number in case you need to make a complaint. Next, thank you. Note how many, what kind of uniforms, type of car they're driving. Is it marked or unmarked? What color is it? So that if you got to come back to your parents and say, this is what happened to me and we need to file a complaint, we got this information. File a complaint should you need to, but get home safely first. That is what we do. Anybody in disagreement? And for those of you who have not had to have the talk with your children, imagine the burden, the pressure. Next, please. So, what can you do, you might be asking yourself, to contribute to police reform efforts? And what kind of police reform efforts should you be asking for, right? Because everybody doesn't know what to ask for. Like, oh, I don't know, what can I do? And they are things that you might have to do some research on so that you can understand them, such as ending qualified immunity, which is a judicial doctrine. Simply put, it allows judges to make a ruling that an officer cannot be held accountable personally in a civil court of law. It is not a law, it is a doctrine, which is why we've been asking Congress to pass a law saying there's no qualified immunity. There's no qualified immunity, because you need to be getting hit in your pockets. Stricter hiring and background checks, train officers in the intersection of race and policing, which I'm going to tell you about in just a hot second, because Montgomery College and Montgomery County Police are going to have a partnership in that way. Next. Support no-knock warrant reform and mandatory duty to intervene. Somebody say something. Who stands around? What officers? I've never, ever done that.
There's like 25 officers standing around. For what?
I would come on a scene and shut the whole scene down. Okay, stop right here. We're gonna stop right here. This is where we stop. Somebody say something. Yeah, does it cause you to get friction? It certainly does. But maybe somebody's life was saved, right? In pretextual police stops, that's where they say, well, we stopped you because your tail light was out. But the Supreme Court has ruled that that's okay. A police officer can stop you for your tail light and then ask you, can they search your car? Looking for other things. Because the law of averages says if I ask enough people to do that and I get into enough cars, I'll find something. What you looking for? I'm trying to go to the store on Saturday morning. I'm not, why? And they're not be able to understand that people are feeling put upon when you do that because they just want to go about their lives daily, not be stopped because of a taillight. Well, tell me my taillight is out and I'll get a bulb. So we need to have that addressed. Create federal and state misconduct investigatory bodies. Somebody needs to be keeping their eye on officers who are found liable or guilty of misconduct so that they can't go to other police departments. And they can't just quit before the investigation is over. And next thing you know, they popping up somewhere else, being the same police officer they were when they were somewhere else. Because the person you are doesn't change just because you change location. And I just talked about this, in rehiring of officers found complicit in misconduct. So, last slide. Research these things so that you can understand what I'm talking about if you don't. Demand. You have a right to demand that your local law enforcement treats you and the people that you love with respect and human dignity. It's your right. The police work for you. There's Sir Robert Peel, they call him the father of modern day policing, I guess. And he was onto something. He had a set of 9 principles. They're called the 9 Peelian principles for ethical policing. And one of them says, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, that the police are the public and the public are the police. Meaning, we're kind of in it for the same reason, but you all get to tell the police, we do, I'm including myself, what it is that we want and demand it. And you can vote. When you finish doing all your research, you understand who can do what. A politician can pass laws. Then vote those people into office by, sometimes they get in office and they don't do what they say they're going to do, but you can do the best you can by voting. And there is one more slide. So Montgomery College and Montgomery County Police entered a partnership. And this is the brainchild really of Will Jawando. He's a county council member a couple of years ago, saying, how can we offer our police department community informed policing so that we can fill in some of the gaps of the things that they don't get in the police academy. And those things are like social justice, health and wellness, community policing, policing history, active listening, and conflict resolution. So we've been working on a curriculum. Dr. Ann Johnson, she's an adjunct professor of psychology. Ginger Robinson, chair of the Department of Sociology, Anthropology, and Criminal Justice. Dr. Vince Ntandi, he's the professor of history at Montgomery College, as well as the founder of the college's Institute for Race, Justice, and Civic Engagement, and Dr. Andraé Brown. And so we are looking very soon to bring this curriculum to the police department so that perhaps we can take a step. I want it to be a huge step, but even if it's a small step in the direction where we can keep our communities safe. Thank you.
We're going to close out our program. We're a little late. Dr. Mashesh, I'd like you to come on up. Oh, we do have a couple of questions. Okay, we can take 3 questions. So that's about all we have time for. And then come on up when those 3 questions are done. All right. Let's go.
Thank you, Dr. Pruitt, so much, Professor Pruitt, so much for your tips. Going back to your talk, could you speak more to what it means to be polite when responding to a police officer, specifically in answering questions? Why are you in this neighborhood? What were you doing? Where are you going? And your obligation to answer questions like that.
That is so. I'll repeat that it's not our job to be concerned about someone else's inability to control themselves. but we can control ourselves. And plus, when you are polite, it puts you, maybe Dr. Dawson can attest to this, but you put yourself in a space where I'm gonna be in power here. I'm gonna be in power of myself. I'm gonna stay calm. I'm gonna be polite because polite keeps you calm. If you get upset, then things start to go off the rails. And you don't, although you're not responsible for someone else, our inability to control our emotions in a situation like that can trigger an officer. They are still human. They are. And so again, I don't want us to think that it's our responsibility to be responsible for what someone else does, but be empowered within and keep your mind calm and ask questions and remember the answers. You might not be able to write those things down, what they look like, what their badge number is, what their name is, but the more calm that you can stay and the more focused, the greater the chances are that it's going to be an encounter where you leave safely.
I appreciate Professor Pruitt's observation that culture can overtake policy and training, but I think training is going to be critical because it's a component of what we do here. So I would hope that the partnership you're exploring with MCPD would also include how to ensure that de-escalation and nonviolent encounters will get as much training time, both in the initial academy phase and as continuing education throughout an officer's career, as does use of force and firearms training. We need to flip the script, and I think there needs to be not only some college pressure, but some public pressure brought to bear to make that happen.
Yes.
That will uncomfortably address how some of the ancillary organizations like police unions are providing their own training that conflicts with what we need our police officers to know and to do on the street.
Thank you for that. And I appreciate it. And I agree with everything you just said.
Thank you, Professor, and everyone else. I mean, like you said, with, the feeling hopeless and feeling like nothing will change. It's just because and I'm not saying this to be contradictory. I can't wrap my mind around how do you train someone not to beat someone to death or shoot an unarmed person? I feel like that's not something you can train. That's just a human thing. And I mean, the videos, I don't see how you can fix something like that with training. And I'm not saying you can't. I don't know.
I appreciate what you're saying, because something I talk about a lot too, and I did not talk about it here, is humanity.
Yeah.
It is very difficult to train someone to be humane, right? But you can bring it to their attention. It's hard to unhear something. It's like when you're in the courtroom and there's testimony and someone says something and the judge tells the jury, pretty much forget you heard it. You can't unhear it. It's already heard. And I feel the same way about that. I think when you start speaking on humanity, and in the course of our training with the police department, we're going to be talking about why certain communities feel the way they do about the police, and in the hopes of having them see these people that they've been dimming as human. This is the human side of this situation. Can't make them treat someone humanely, but we can bring it to their attention. So to your point, we got you. We're there with you, and I agree that it's something that we do need to address, and as well as we can. You see, I can't find my words. We're going to do the best we can to have that addressed, because once you are able to objectify someone, then they're now an object, and it's easier to abuse them.
Yeah. Right.
So our due diligence, we have to address it.
And I would add, great point. Right. I think part of it is, on earlier, who we allow in, right? We need our kind, thoughtful friends, family, and neighbors to join the police force because we do need protection. We do need something to help maintain some status. Right now, I'm not saying it has to be police. A lot of other ways to create community safety. But if we tell everybody to stay away from it, then those who are more likely to join will be those maybe people who are more likely to objectify and have less restraint than folks who've been brought up a certain way to say everybody's human and let me support when I'm needed. And then you have that baseline of humanity already starting off, but it's hard to, so you can't legislate treat people good or not being abusive. So we have to do something. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm just going to pick up on that really quick. Not as an expert, but I think in closing remarks, I'm actually here to make an introduction about the Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation Campus Center. And the whole point is for us to understand our shared humanity. And I think part of what lies in the objectification is this separation. And in this country, we know we have that history of separation and segregation that can allow these abuses to occur. And so how do you begin to address that when we are so ingrained in living separately? So maybe in some of what we try and do here with the campus center can help address that. Thank you, Dr. Brown, Captain Pruitt, CEIO, Sharon Wilder. Really quickly, I'm Dr. Irene Moshesh. I'm actually a math professor here on the Rockville campus in the Math, Statistics, and Data Science Department. And I'm here today because I'm serving for this year as the Montgomery College Truth, Racial Healing, Transformation Campus Center Project Director. So it's my job over the course of this year to figure out how do we do that? How do we bring about this shared humanity? How do we build community? And the whole purpose is so that you guys inherit a better world, that you would know how to advocate for justice and build more equitable communities, because ultimately that is the change that we want to see. Okay, so how did we get this campus center? So this is actually an AAC&U initiative, American Association of Colleges and Universities. They partnered with the Kellogg Foundation to bring about TRHT campus centers, and they're nationwide. So there's 70 plus TRHT campus centers already operating, and we have a mentor at UMBC, Prince George's Community College, also Nova Community College as well. Our particular campus center was funded by the Meyer Foundation. So just a heads up, it's Kellogg Foundation for nationwide, but for us in particular at Montgomery College, it's the Meyer Foundation who gave us the funding to start our campus center. In general, you guys, when you see that TRHT campus center symbol logo, what that means. So if you're thinking about transferring and you're thinking, well, I want a school that I know that I'm going to feel comfortable at, you can see that logo, Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation Campus Center. They're all built around these 5 pillars. The first one is narrative change. I think Dr. Brown was addressing this when he was talking about, you know, psychologically, what do we feel when we see these images? And then how does that, you know, influence or inform how we interact with other people? So narrative change really is an important piece. 2, the second pillar, racial healing and relationship building. And so for us at Montgomery College, that's the pillar that we're going to focus on this year because we're new. And so a lot of racial healing needs to occur. We're all coming back out after the pandemic. We all want to learn how to interact together in a peaceful, kind way. And the third one, separation. 4th one, law. And 5th one, the economy. So that symbol means that that's what they're trying to work on. So we're running past time. So this is a really nice video about the launch. And so we'll skip the video, you guys. Okay, and then that's the website. So, but it's a really good video. In the video, you would have seen people sitting in a circle. So when you're thinking about, okay, Irene, you've got this TRHT Campus Center, you're talking about shared humanity. Well, what do you do? So this event was something that we all felt we needed to talk about. And that Francine brought up a really good point, you know, how we feel the fact that the 5 officers were African-American beating up Tyre Nichols, another African-American. What does that have to do with racial healing? But how we see Black bodies and how Black bodies would perceive what they just saw, excuse me, that is definitely a time for racial healing, even if you think there was no race issue involved. So this was something we definitely wanted to talk about. But in general, that's not all that we need to talk about. That's not going to be our everyday when we talk about resilience and making sure that we can center ourselves and go home to our families in the right way, in the right frame of mind. How do we kind of do that on the day-to-day? How do we share a common humanity on the day-to-day? And so our perennial event is RX Racial Healing Circles. And so what those healing circles are us as a college coming together in a diverse way. So different races. So people would sign up for a healing circle. And we would choose people who were different races so that we could get into the same room. We all work in different departments. We work on different issues, but it's nice to be able to get to know each other outside of that. And so what racial healing circles, excuse me one second, let me just make sure I'm not missing anything that I want to say. So racial healing circles are intentional about bringing us together across racial lines. We also invite county officials to these racial healing circles. So when you get an invitation to a racial healing circle, they last about an hour and a half. When we get together, we have prompts that allow you to get to know somebody else in the room that may seem totally different than you, but by the time you finish listening to them share their stories, you feel like you know them a little bit better. And so you're really learning how to see someone else the way that you see yourself, a friend, a loved one, a family member. And so those are really important moments for us to share, because usually when we're sitting next to our coworker, we're talking about, the next project, what's due, a deadline, but we're not really getting a chance to know each other. I just want to share this article with you. It's a newspaper clipping from 1950. And that headline on the right says that lack of transit hampers Negro Junior College. 19 of the Carver students out of 40 who were enrolled showed up on the first day. Carver Junior College was in Rockville. It was the first public junior college for Negroes in Maryland. And it was this college. Montgomery Junior College was for white students. That's actually our Tacoma Park campus. So separation is a part of our history. Coming together takes effort and goodwill. It doesn't just happen naturally because we've been separated for a long time. And so we have to be intentional about trying to come together and imagine how difficult that could be. A couple of things, why it's important that when we have racial healing circles, we bring in county representatives. So if you read this article, the dean of the Negro College in Rockville, Maryland, started trying to figure out, well, why are my students not showing? What is going on? And he cited two things. First, he said, well, we've asked them to pay tuition in full. But he said it really wasn't that. That wasn't the biggest thing. It was the transportation. And I think I should read his words. But it is the transportation difficulty that discourages most of those who want to come to college. He explained that the county has not provided public transportation and that many of Montgomery's Negro communities are scattered through the upper part of the county, far from public transportation. I also thought it was interesting if you go further down, when we talk about how we perceive the other. At the end, it says, it's also updating about the Tacoma Park campus too. It says Montgomery Junior College on the same day opened its 5th year on its new campus with an enrollment of more than 500. So on the same day, we barely got 19 here. And I'm not saying that it was purposeful or intentional, that can be debated. But what's not up for debate is that only 19 were able to show up. And so it would be really awesome. We could think, I even asked my stat students, like, wow, what questions could they have asked to figure out that those 40 weren't going to be able to show up? And what questions are we not asking? So, yeah, so we have to get into the room together. So Captain Pruitt said, you know, they're expecting this of us. We can't be ignorant. It's not somebody else's problem. We're now the adults in the room. And so we have to come together in a responsible way. And I'm hoping that these circles can do that. So February 24th at 10 a.m., SC 152, that's our chance to get to know each other and to help each other find shared community here on campus, shared humanity on campus. It provides us a space when things like this happen, you know, just to show solidarity. And then find people that you may be able to even take action with. In case you have any questions about a healing circle, I just wanted to go back and let you know that they're in the slides. So when you are invited to a healing circle, everybody comes in, we set some ground rules so that everybody knows how to respect somebody else's story. We engage in active listening. You're given prompts, and then you are paired with another partner, usually of a different race, somebody that you may not likely would have gotten to know otherwise. And then you have conversations, you practice listening to each other. They last about an hour and a half. And what I would say is usually people want to get together afterward. And what we're hoping with that interest of getting together afterward, that we can actually bring people like who are interested in community informed policing in different parts of the college, in different parts of the county, in the same healing circle, so they can start with this baseline of shared humanity. Our TRHT ambassadors are trained facilitators. They do this work. And here's what some of our attendees have had to say. We've held about 5 of them, and we have a couple of ambassadors in the room as well. So that's it, guys. You're welcome.
All right, so we we went a little bit over. I had originally said 11:30 to 1:30. I really remember, y'all, I said that. Okay. We needed a little bit of time to unpack today. So so because I've kept you all very long, I'm going to just go ahead and close this out. And Dr. Johnson has some things in the front for us to take advantage of, and she'll be here for a moment. But I do want you all to be able to go, the people that are here, to be able to go get your lunch. So the way that we enter the rooms and the spaces with folks that we work with and students that we teach, and for students those other, your peers that you interact with, should be rather, what I'm asking is for you all to consider the things that we've talked about. Leading with kindness, considering civility in how you're speaking with people, thinking about empathy. We don't know what people are bringing to the table. Giving grace and understanding that people are dealing with some stuff, right? And with that, I am going to end today's program. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Thank you to our speakers, Captain Pruitt, Dr. Brown, Dr. Yosesh, Dr. Dawson. Could not do it without the wonderful MCTV team. Thank you to my partner in this work, Maria, who has been holding it down. And thank you, IT folks, for being with us and keeping us on track. And thank you all for attending.